Now, the data is really the amount of data that is generated on LinkedIn and how it can be used to help other people is really phenomenal. So you can watch here are the companies, and we know what jobs companies are hiring for. We know the skills they're putting in their job ads. We know that if you have certain skills, who's getting hired faster based on the skills that they have.
So what's an example? Like, what's surprising you?
Well, I think what completely surprises me is that the number one skill gap, the skill that companies say they need the most of that they're not seeing are communication skills. You would think that in an era where there's like AI is, we know that AI is a huge part of the future. We know that software engineering is the most in demand job, that every company now is a tech company and they have to have these engineers building stuff for them. But still the area where hiring managers are saying that they are lacking the most is people who can communicate. And people who can talk, who can write memos, who can explain why they're doing what they're doing. And I think that's first of all, it's really, as a journalism and econ major in college, it's a really rewarding thing to know that, these are skills that are still necessary. But it also tells you a lot about the state of the world, that you have to develop these skills. You have to be specialized in certain areas. You have to know how to do a lot, but you also have to be able to communicate and share. And no matter what happens with AI, no matter how machine learning changes how we do our jobs or eliminates certain jobs and brings new ones, we're always going to need that ability to be able to explain why you're doing what you're doing, to sell, to be able to offer opinions, to be able to get people on your side on things. And companies feel like they're not getting it right now.
Well, it's so interesting because you always have your list of top LinkedIn influencers, and I think it might have been management. You had Beth Comstock in your top 10, and she was the vice chairman of GE, and her background was public relations and communications. And she was recently on the podcast, and she was basically saying, as GE was trying to communicate their vision, particularly post 9/11, when the world was scared, the GE management was probably quite correctly focused on, well, how do we communicate that we're always going to increase profits or revenues by 10% and this and that, and it was all numbers. And she made the point, numbers don't tell a story, and you always have to tell a story. We're a civilization of storytellers, and that's how we communicate from generation to generation.